Hello, my name is Terran Mott. I'm a PhD candidate at the Colorado School of Mines Mirror Lab. I'm here to share about a participatory design project from myself, my colleague Alexandra Bejarano, and our advisor Tom Williams. We are creating interactive robotic technology for children across contexts like education, healthcare, and therapy. While there are clear pro-social reasons to develop technology that assists children, there are also clear ethical risks, especially with respect to the relationship children may form with robots. A central principle of ethical design is that we should mutually explore potential technologies as they relate to communities' priorities, values, and goals. So, HRI researchers should practically explore the perspectives of children on such matters, but engaging children in this way is difficult. Our key insight in this work is that HRI researchers have already developed methodologies that can address these challenges. Participatory design research methods such as co-design workshops can be used to understand how children make sense of the ethical dilemmas surrounding child-robot relationships. This project combines existing ideas about the value of reflection in co-design with established methods for conducting accessible and egalitarian design activities with children. The core contribution of our work is a demonstration that co-design methods can facilitate children's engagement with robot ethics. Critical reflection is already important in design research with children, especially in participatory design. Co-design methods can help children develop a critical and reflective stance about technology, as defined by Iverson. This stance begins with the new insight and skills that children gain during the design process and expands to include children's nuanced perception of technology, critical thinking about its role in their own lives, and empowerment to make decisions about technology in the future. We conducted a pair of co-design workshops, one with 2nd and 3rd graders and one with 4th and 5th graders at an urban forest school in Denver. We introduced these children to established concepts and concerns about child-robot relationships and encouraged them to explore these ideas through design. To provide a catalyst for discussion, we selected some springboard ideas about child-robot relationships. These ideas were introduced through storytelling, which is a developmentally appropriate way to explore abstract ideas with children. We read a series of short 6 to 10 sentence stories adapted from relevant research papers and the experiences of our collaborators. These stories presented our springboard ideas in a narrative way. They also aimed to encourage children to engage with the flexible nature of design. We intentionally chose stories that involve robotics researchers exploring ambiguous concepts, changing their minds, or asking questions about human emotion. The duration of each workshop was about 3 hours, but each had the same structure. It began with our initial design story discussion at a picnic table. Then children sketched their design ideas. Next, they built physical prototypes of their design using familiar materials. Children then used PeerBots, which is a robot teleoperation tool, to also design interactions for their robots by making utterance buttons. Finally, we used a cell phone to serve as the robot's face and voice so that children could test their interaction designs on the physical prototype they made. This process allowed us to explore children's perspectives through multiple modalities and emphasize that robot design is about how a robot will talk, act, and interact, not just about how it will look or move. Throughout our co-design workshops, we made a number of methodological choices to emphasize power sharing, to be transparent about our research goals, and to show children that we were there as collaborators, not as instructors. We created a scripted explanation of the research process and anonymous use of participants' work in our research. We also made sure to use familiar spaces and materials. We encouraged informal interaction by dressing casually and not requiring hand-raising. And finally, during a video activity, we asked children to record one another to avoid the feeling that they were performing for adults. We encourage you to read our paper for a more thorough discussion of this critical aspect of our work. Because our goal was to facilitate critical reflection, our analysis focused on children's thought processes, sense-making procedures, and ideas. The design process was an accessible, fun way to encourage conversation and support exploratory thinking. Additionally, we don't claim that the content of our participants' designs is generalizable, but more on this in a second. Children in our workshops readily imagined connections between a robot's design, user reactions, and the corresponding impact on human-robot relationships. For example, one major topic of discussion in our workshops was the role of authority in child-robot relationships. In general, children valued authority and expected to be in charge of both hypothetical future robots and the robots in their designs. They were hesitant about the premise of future robots being in charge of children, such as in teacher-like roles. However, participants also thought critically about their preference for authority. Several groups of children independently explored the idea that they might be willing to suspend their authority over a future classroom robot in an emergency situation. This scenario was of their own devising and wasn't present in any design stories. Children explained that despite wanting to be in charge of future robots, they would reconsider that preference under certain circumstances. This is a great example of critical reflection. It shows how children took the initiative to extrapolate beyond our springboard ideas. They interrogated their own assumptions about a preference for authority and extrapolated about edge case scenarios. Children also engaged in critical reflection about the role of affect and deception in child-robot relationships. For example, one of our introductory design stories was about this work, comparing preschoolers' mental models of Aibo to their mental models of a living dog. We challenged children to consider the premise of emotional bonds with Aibo by asking them about whether or not they would tell a secret to a robot pet and how they would feel about a younger child doing the same because they mistakenly thought the robot had real feelings. We chose this secret-telling scenario because it occurs in research and also because it made a more concrete dilemma out of this abstract concept. Jacob stipulated that I would feel comfortable telling secrets, but I would have to get to know the robot first. Some children mentioned that sharing secrets with a real dog is advantageous because it wouldn't understand, though Isaac said that I might choose a robot dog over a real dog for secret telling anyway because maybe it also doesn't really know what I'm saying. Children in both workshops explored the potential ethical harms of our Aibo story, even when we didn't explicitly guide them in that direction. Specifically, they understood how our secret-telling scenario created security and privacy issues, in addition to the deception issue that researchers introduced. Many participants shared thoughts such as, what if someone hacks the robot? What if someone steals the secrets? Claire also added that even without a deliberate hack, the robot could just malfunction and start talking and say your secret to everyone. We asked participants to revisit this dilemma in our workshop debrief. In the debrief, they made compelling suggestions about how to address the problem of future children mistakenly thinking that robots have real feelings. Claire suggested that future robots should be smart but honest, meaning that they should be highly interactive but not deceive their users. When asked how this might be implemented, Claire suggested that on the instruction manual for the robot, it should have questions you can ask the robot like, hey, do you have real feelings? And the robot shouldn't lie. It should say no. Children demonstrated a critical and reflective stance on the role of deception in child-robot relationships. They comprehended additional ethical implications of the topic beyond what we introduced and felt empowered to propose constructive solutions to adults. Children also considered how this issue would affect others, including younger children, children in the future, and children who had not learned about robots yet. In this way, they also demonstrated critical reflection by seeking psychological distance from their own experiences. The core contribution of our work is methodological. We show that co-design methods can engage children in critical thinking as technology stakeholders. We do not claim that the content of our participants' reflection is universal. The contributions of participatory design research are always tied to the social community in which the research took place. So the perspectives of our participants do not represent those of all children. We encourage you to support children's reflexive practice about technology as it applies to the local, situated communities in which they explore the world. Future work in this space can help build a more diverse body of local knowledge by inviting other children, children from socially marginalized communities, and children who have different personal life experiences to also engage with technology ethics concepts. Children are stakeholders of robotic technology who deserve to have their voices heard just as much as adults. It is important to engage children in discussion about children's robotic technology, and co-design is an effective method for doing so. Most importantly, children are capable of considering robot ethics concepts with imagination, creativity, and nuance. Thank you.